Ethan had always been good with his hands. As a mechanic, he could fix just about anything, from rusted engines to broken brakes. But lately, life hadn't been kind to him. His small garage was struggling to stay afloat, and bills were piling up faster than he could pay them. Still, Ethan refused to give up. He worked long hours, determined to provide for his wife and 2 young kids no matter what. One sunny afternoon, as Ethan tinkered with a stubborn carburetor, his phone buzzed with an urgent call. It was the local airport, requesting immediate assistance for a private jet stranded on the tarmac. "We're told you're the best," the voice on the other end said. "Can you come right away?" Ethan hesitated briefly, then nodded even though no one could see him. "I'll be there as soon as I can." When he arrived at the airport, he spotted the sleek jet parked near the runway. Out stepped Sophia, dressed elegantly yet casually, exuding confidence and poise. "Hi," she said, approaching him with a polite smile. "My name is Sophia. My jet seems to have some issues. It won't start, and I'm not sure why." Ethan wiped his greasy hands on a rag and nodded. "Sure, let me take a look." As he examined the aircraft, Ethan couldn't help but feel intimidated. This wasn't the kind of machine he usually worked on. His clients typically drove beat-up trucks or old sedans. Sophia's presence only added to the pressure. She carried herself with an air of importance that made him nervous. But Ethan pushed those thoughts aside. He reminded himself that no matter the vehicle or its owner, his job was the same: to fix problems and make things right. Ethan stepped onto the tarmac, his toolbox in hand, and approached the sleek private jet. The aircraft was a masterpiece of engineering, far more advanced than anything he'd ever worked on before. Though intimidated, Ethan reminded himself that machines, no matter how complex, operated on basic principles: engines, wiring, and moving parts. He began inspecting the jet systems, carefully tracing wires and checking panels. Sophia watched him from a distance, intrigued by his calm demeanor and methodical approach. Most mechanics she'd encountered in the past would have panicked at the thought of working on such an expensive machine. But Ethan moved with quiet confidence, refusing to let the stakes overwhelm him. After a few minutes, Ethan turned to Sophia with a thoughtful expression. "It looks like the issue is with the fuel pump relay. It's not delivering power properly. That's why the engine won't start." Sophia nodded, though her eyes betrayed a flicker of concern. "How serious is it? Will it take long to fix?" "Not too bad," Ethan replied reassuringly. "I've got the tools I need right here. With some time, I can get it running again." Relieved, Sophia smiled faintly. "Thank you. I really appreciate this. I've got meetings across the country, and this couldn't have come at a worse time." "No problem," Ethan said warmly. "I'll do my best to get you back in the air quickly." As Ethan worked, Sophia lingered nearby, watching him with quiet curiosity. She noticed how meticulous he was, double-checking every connection and tightening bolts with care. What struck her most was his honesty. He didn't exaggerate the problem or inflate costs, as many others might have done given the value of the jet. At one point, she approached him while he was halfway through the repair. "How much will this cost?" she asked cautiously, expecting a hefty bill given the importance of the jet to her schedule. Ethan glanced up, wiping sweat from his forehead. "The part itself isn't cheap, but I won't charge extra labor since it's a straightforward fix. And don't worry, I'm not going to suggest anything you don't need." Sophia raised an eyebrow, surprised by his transparency. "That's refreshing. Most people would see this situation and assume they could charge whatever they wanted." "I'm not most people," Ethan said simply, returning to his work. His honesty left a deep impression on Sophia. In her world of high-stakes deals and polished facades, sincerity was rare and often undervalued. Yet here was a man who treated her luxurious jet with the same respect and care he'd give to any other vehicle, regardless of its worth. By late afternoon, Ethan finished the repair and closed the panel with a satisfied nod. He motioned for Sophia to join him as he explained the work he'd done. "All set," he said, handing her the keys to the cockpit. "Take it for a quick test run to make sure everything feels okay." Sophia climbed into the pilot's seat and started the engine, listening closely for any lingering issues. To her relief, the jet roared smoothly, free of the earlier problems. Satisfied, she stepped out and handed Ethan a check. "Here," she said, "and please don't hesitate to charge me fairly. It's clear you put a lot of effort into this." Ethan processed the payment quickly, ensuring the amount reflected only the actual cost of parts and labor. When he returned the receipt, Sophia studied it briefly before looking up at him. "You didn't overcharge me," she remarked, almost amused. "Most people wouldn't have been so fair." "It's not about the money," Ethan replied modestly. "Just glad I could help." Sophia smiled, clearly impressed. There was something about his humility and dedication that stood out sharply against the greed and shortcuts she often encountered in her line of work. Before climbing back into her jet, she hesitated, then turned to face him again. "Well, thank you again, Ethan," she said thoughtfully. "You've been incredibly kind. I won't forget this." Ethan chuckled nervously, brushing off the praise. "It's just my job, ma'am. Nothing special." "Oh, it's special all right," Sophia replied firmly, her tone carrying a hint of mystery. "And kindness like yours deserves recognition." With that, she boarded her jet and prepared to depart, leaving Ethan puzzled but grateful for the encounter. Little did he know, Sophia's gratitude would lead to something far greater than either of them could have imagined. As Sophia prepared to board her jet, she paused for a moment, glancing back at Ethan. He stood on the tarmac, wiping grease from his hands with a rag, his face calm and focused as he packed up his tools. There was something about him, an authenticity and quiet strength, that lingered in her mind long after their brief interaction. Sophia had spent years building her empire, climbing the corporate ladder, and achieving success beyond her wildest dreams. Yet, despite her wealth and accomplishments, she often felt lonely. Surrounded by people who admired her status or sought to benefit from her connections, she rarely encountered someone who treated her simply as a person, someone like Ethan. "Wait!" Sophia called out suddenly, stepping down from the jet stairs. Ethan looked up, surprised. "Is everything okay? Did the jet have another issue?" No, the jet's fine," Sophia replied quickly, shaking her head. "It's something else." She hesitated, unsure how to put her feelings into words. Finally, she took a deep breath and continued. "Ethan, I know this might sound crazy, but I need to say it. When I watched you work today, I saw qualities in you that I deeply admire. Honesty, humility, resilience. You didn't treat me differently because of who I am, and that's rare. It made me realize something important. I don't want to lose touch with someone like you." Ethan blinked, stunned. I'm not sure what to say. I was just doing my job." "I know," Sophia said softly, her voice trembling slightly. "But sometimes the way people handle small moments reveals who they truly are. And what I saw in you today, your kindness, your integrity, it moved me. I think we could build something special together." Before Ethan could respond, Sophia knelt on one knee, pulling a ring from her pocket. "Will you marry me?" she asked, her eyes filled with sincerity. Ethan froze, his heart racing. For a moment, all he could hear was the distant hum of the airport and the pounding of his own pulse. A billionaire proposing marriage? On the spot? It sounded like something out of a movie, not real life. "Sophia, Ethan stammered, struggling to find the right words. "This is incredible but also overwhelming. We barely know each other." "I understand," Sophia replied gently, standing up but keeping the ring in her hand. "I'm not asking you to decide right now. I'm just telling you how I feel, and hoping you'll consider giving us a chance. Wealth and status don't matter to me. What matters is finding someone who shares my values and makes me want to be a better person." Her vulnerability caught Ethan off guard. Despite their vastly different worlds, there was an undeniable connection between them, a spark of mutual respect and admiration. Later that evening, as Ethan drove home, he couldn't stop thinking about Sophia's proposal. On one hand, it seemed absurd. How could two people from such different backgrounds possibly make a relationship work? On the other hand, he couldn't deny the impact she'd had on him during their short time together. Her honesty and courage reminded him of the importance of taking risks, even when they felt impossible. When he arrived home, Maria, his wife, noticed his distracted demeanor. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she joked, setting dinner on the table. "What's going on?" Ethan sighed, sitting down heavily. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." "Try me," Maria said, raising an eyebrow. So Ethan told her everything, from fixing the jet to Sophia's unexpected proposal. To his surprise, Maria listened without judgment, her expression thoughtful. "It sounds like she sees something in you that even you might not see yet," Maria said finally. "And if she's willing to take a leap of faith, maybe you should too." "But what about our family? Our life here?" Ethan asked, his voice tinged with worry. "Change isn't always bad," Maria replied gently. "Sometimes it's exactly what we need to grow. Just promise me one thing: if you do this, stay true to yourself. Don't let anyone change who you are." Her words gave Ethan clarity. Though the decision terrified him, he realized that love wasn't about perfection. It was about trust, growth, and shared values. The next morning, Ethan called Sophia. "I've thought about what you said," he began cautiously. "And while I'm still scared, I'm willing to try, to see where this goes. But only if we can do it honestly, as equals." Sophia's relief was evident in her voice. "Thank you, Ethan. That's all I ask. For us to face whatever comes next together." With those words, their journey began. A partnership built not on wealth or status, but on mutual respect and the courage to embrace the unknown. And the days following Sophia's proposal and Ethan's tentative acceptance, both of them grappled with the reality of their decision. While their connection was undeniable, the differences between their worlds loomed large. For Ethan, stepping into Sophia's luxurious lifestyle felt like entering uncharted territory. For Sophia, ensuring that Ethan felt valued, not overshadowed by her wealth, became a priority. As Ethan and Sophia continued to build their life together, they faced both challenges and triumphs. At first, adjusting to each other's worlds felt like walking a tightrope. For Ethan, stepping into Sophia's luxurious lifestyle was overwhelming. The grand parties, the constant attention from the media, and the pressure to fit in were daunting. But Sophia made sure to ease his transition, introducing him to her closest friends, people who valued authenticity over appearances, and encouraging him to stay grounded in his values. Sophia, too, worked hard to adapt. She began spending more time in Ethan's world, visiting his garage, meeting his family, and learning about the simple joys of small-town life. She marveled at how connected Ethan was to his community, how everyone relied on him not just for repairs, but also for advice and support. It inspired her to reconnect with her own roots, remembering the importance of humility and gratitude. Their partnership became a blend of both worlds. Ethan brought practicality and warmth to Sophia's high-profile life, while Sophia introduced Ethan to new opportunities and perspectives. Together, they found a balance that honored who they were individually while strengthening their bond as a couple. One day, Sophia surprised Ethan by organizing a charity event at the airport where they had first met. The event aimed to raise funds for vocational training programs, helping young people from underserved communities learn skills like mechanics and engineering. As Ethan stood beside Sophia, watching students eagerly participate in workshops, he realized how much their relationship had grown, not just between them, but within their shared mission to give back. "You've changed me," Sophia said softly during a quiet moment at the event. "You've reminded me that success isn't about money or fame. It's about making a difference. And you've shown me that love can be bold and brave." Ethan replied, smiling. "I never thought I'd end up here, but I'm glad I did with you." Their journey wasn't without its challenges. Critics still questioned their relationship, and there were moments when the differences between their backgrounds tested their patience. But through it all, they leaned on each other, finding strength in their shared commitment to honesty and respect. Over time, Ethan gained confidence not just as a mechanic but as a leader. With Sophia's encouragement, he began mentoring young apprentices, teaching them the skills he'd learned over the years. Many of these apprentices went on to start their own businesses or pursue careers in technology, carrying forward the values Ethan embodied: perseverance, compassion, and integrity. Sophia, meanwhile, shifted her focus toward creating initiatives that bridged gaps between different communities. Inspired by Ethan's connection to his hometown, she launched projects aimed at revitalizing rural areas, providing resources and opportunities to those often overlooked by urban development. Together, they proved that love could transcend material differences, that true partnership was built on mutual respect, shared purpose, and unwavering support. Their story became an inspiration to those around them, showing that kindness and authenticity could create ripples of change far beyond themselves. Years later, as they stood hand in hand watching the sunset over the same beach where they had once pledged their commitment, Ethan turned to Sophia with a smile. "We've come a long way since that Tarmac," he said, his voice filled with warmth. "We have," Sophia agreed, squeezing his hand, "and we'll keep going together." In the end, their love wasn't defined by wealth or status, but by the courage to embrace the unknown and the determination to grow alongside one another. Through their partnership, they showed that true love wasn't about finding someone perfect. It was about building something beautiful, flaws and all. The end. Call to action. If Ethan and Sophia's story touched your heart, share it with others. Let us know in the comments. How has love or trust inspired you? Your stories inspire us to keep creating tales that matter. Ethan returned to his garage after the whirlwind events at the airport, trying to process everything. He loved his simple life, the familiarity of fixing cars, the camaraderie with neighbors, and the joy of providing for his family. But now he faced a choice that could upend everything he knew. As he worked on a beat-up truck one afternoon, Maria approached him, concern etched on her face. "You've been quiet since yesterday," she said softly. "What's really bothering you?" "It's not just about leaving this life behind," Ethan admitted, setting down his wrench. "It's about whether I'm ready for something so big. Sophia's world is nothing like ours. What if I can't fit in? What if I disappoint her?" Maria placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You're forgetting something important. You already impressed her. She didn't fall for some imaginary version of you. She fell for the real Ethan, the hardworking, honest man standing right here. Don't try to be someone you're not. Just be yourself." Her words helped ease some of Ethan's fears, but doubts lingered. Could he truly adapt to a life filled with private jets, lavish parties, and endless scrutiny from strangers? More importantly, could he maintain his sense of self while doing so? Meanwhile, Sophia found herself reflecting on her own life. Though outwardly successful, she had often felt isolated, surrounded by people who admired her wealth rather than her character. Meeting Ethan had awakened something in her, a longing for authenticity and genuine connection. But as much as she believed in their potential, she worried about how others would perceive their relationship. Critics would undoubtedly question Ethan's intentions, assuming he was only interested in her money. And what about Ethan himself? Would he feel comfortable navigating her high-profile world? One evening, as she sat alone in her penthouse apartment overlooking the city lights, Sophia picked up the phone. "Hi, Ethan," she said when he answered. "Do you have time to talk? There are things I want to share with you." "Of course," Ethan replied, his voice warm but cautious. They met later that night at a quiet cafe near the airport where they'd first crossed paths. Over cups of coffee, Sophia opened up about her fears and hopes for their future together. "I know this isn't going to be easy," she began honestly. "People will judge us, they'll say we're too different, that it won't work. But I believe love shouldn't be limited by wealth or status. It should be about understanding each other, supporting each other, and growing together." Ethan nodded slowly, appreciating her candor. "I agree, but I need you to promise me something. If we're going to do this, we keep things real. No pretending, no hiding who we are. Deal?" "Deal," Sophia replied firmly, smiling despite the weight of their conversation. Conversations that deepen their bond. Over the next few weeks, Ethan and Sophia spent more time together, learning about each other's lives and values. They talked about everything, from their childhoods and dreams to their fears and insecurities. During one such conversation, Ethan shared how he'd grown up in a tight-knit community where everyone looked out for one another. "That's why I became a mechanic," he explained. "I wanted to help people, to fix problems and make their lives easier, even in small ways." Sophia listened intently, touched by his humility. "That's exactly why I started my business," she said. "I wanted to create opportunities for others, to make a difference. But somewhere along the way, I lost sight of that purpose. Meeting you reminded me of why I began in the first place." Their shared desire to help others created a strong foundation for their relationship. Despite their differing backgrounds, they discovered common ground in their commitment to kindness, hard work, and making the world a better place. As their bond deepened, Ethan realized that love wasn't about perfection. It was about embracing imperfections and growing together. He decided to take a leap of faith, trusting that their connection was stronger than any obstacle they might face. One evening, as they walked along the beach at sunset, Ethan turned to Sophia. "I've thought a lot about what you said, that love shouldn't be limited by wealth or status," he began. "And I think you're right. If we approach this with honesty and respect, there's no reason we can't make it work." Sophia smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "Thank you, Ethan. You have no idea how much that means to me." Hand in hand, they stood watching the waves crash against the shore, knowing their journey would be challenging but worth every step.